This is the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each episode, I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning, no matter the challenge. The Jedburgh podcast is founded in the lineage of the special operations Jedburgh teams of the past and is produced in partnership with Talent War Group, a management consulting and executive search firm focused on helping you optimize the people side of your business. We're sponsored by Jersey Mike's Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving, making a difference in someone's life. Visit the Jedburgh podcast, Talent War Group, and Jersey Mike's Subs on the web and on social media. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. We meet a lot of people in this life, but most of our relationships are transactional. They're temporary. They live in one single moment in time. But every once in a while, we meet someone, a person who immediately moves us. They touch us in a way that we didn't expect or we couldn't foresee. That's what happened to me when I met Earl Granville. I say the best stories, you know it, they always start with, there I was, minding my business. And when I met Earl, I was simply minding my business, catching up with my former colleagues from the United War Veterans Council after the concert the night before the start of Sandlot Jacks and the Go Ruck games. Until, of course, Earl Granville saw Mark Otto's Go Ruck t-shirt, walked up, and asked where everybody was. Next thing I know, Earl and I are exchanging contact info. We're posing for pictures with statues. And that was before the Coors Light started flowing. Earl's an obstacle course athlete, a marathon runner, a triathlete, a speaker. He ran for Congress. He's won numerous awards for kindness and generosity. And he's a disabled veteran. Earl lost his leg in Afghanistan in a roadside bomb attack. His twin brother Joe, his best friend, died by suicide while serving on active duty in 2010. Earl joined me in the back of the World War II British Royal Air Force Land Rover ambulance to talk about resiliency, drive, and adaptability. See, Earl's had every reason in life to close up, go internal, quit. Yet he wakes up every day with a purpose. He wakes up with the goal of never quitting, learning from his past, and helping others define their own path in life. When Earl showed up at the ambulance, he brought Cindy, his weighted friend who travels everywhere with him as a reminder that we all carry weight on our shoulders. But when we share that weight, together, we can go further than we ever could on our own. Check out our videos and pictures from this episode and the entire Sandlot event on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Find all our episodes on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out my interview with Earl. We'll see you there. Earl, welcome to the Jedburgh podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Frank.
We're here, Sandlot Jacks, sponsored by Go Ruck. We're in the Defender, the Land Rover, the Jedburgh podcast on remote studio. We towed it down from Connecticut. Sponsored in this by the Readiness Collective, our partners in this activation, and Jaguar Land Rover of Fairfield was kind enough to give us this, but I think it's a pretty sick spot. We got F-45s working out right next to us. We got the music in the background. You're competing like right now. You're in the midst of it, but thanks for taking a few minutes to join us.
Absolutely. I'm honored.
What have you done so far? Because anyone who, if you're listening to this on the podcast platforms, you have to go check the socials and you have to go check the YouTube channel because we're sitting here with your shirt off. It is Jacksonville and it's Florida, so the land of freedom, but you are in the middle of doing an event right now.
So right now I'm just competing what's called Nasty 002, and we're taking on the makeshift Savage Race obstacle course. It's just a quarter-mile course, obstacles right on top of each other, and you just keep doing laps with that, followed by Rogue Fitness, holding a 125-pound sandbag for as long as you can, the assault bike for 50 calories, and look, 50 calories in an assault bike. Usually we do 5 or 10 in a CrossFit WOD, but 50, like, holy jeez, man. And all I have due left is an 800-meter run, so half-mile run.
How's it been going? How was it so far?
It is great, actually. Yeah. It's one of a kind. You know, I gotta tell you, if you're into fitness, and we have all unique vendors here, and every time from obstacle course races, for Go Ruck events, from 5Ks. It's like I think of it as like a mini Arnold, but more of the endurance community. We have speakers out the wazoo out here, giving words of encouragement.
We're getting as many of them as we can.
It is amazing, and this is the first of this event, and I ran into Jason earlier, and I was just honored to have the privilege to come here and speak, not just on your podcast, but also on stage here. And I'm completely just just in awe at what this event has turned into. So I'm hoping this is an annual event because this is pretty cool.
That's his goal. That's his goal. So we had him on. We had him on episode 56. We released it yesterday, the day before this, and we talked all about the driving reasons behind this. He was like, he said he called in every favor that he ever had, and it was like, can we bring everybody that has ever been a part of this community and wants to be a part of this community, bring them in here, celebrate getting back together, no virtual, everything in person. And every time, so I've been in here now for the last couple of hours with speaking with so many great folks and learning from them, and every time I get out of here, there's more and more people who are flowing through the gates.
And it is like a little reunion because there's people I haven't seen in the GoRuck community in years. And just people yell, Earl, I'm like, holy shit, my goodness, man. It's just like I haven't seen a lot of these people in so long. Somebody actually at the Travis Manning Foundation, they came up to me, and I did one of their challenges, doing 20 pull-ups and get a shirt, and he asked what my name was, and I said Earl, and he said Earl Granville, and he says, yeah, I'm neighbors with Kyle and Becky. Kyle and Becky, I met them when I worked at an orphanage in Ecuador in 2014.
Awesome.
And I'm like, you are actually neighbors with them? I haven't seen them in like 8 years, and you're telling me their names right now, saying they're neighbors with me, and they oh yeah, we know this guy with one leg who does all this, and I was just like, wow, like what a small world, and just how tight this community is. The fitness community, the endurance community, it's unbelievable, and just having everybody come down here, it's by far awesome.
Yeah, we were so excited to be offered the opportunity to do this here, because this is a first for us too. I mean, we haven't done an activation like this yet, so we're hoping this is the start of something that's just truly tremendous.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about you for a little bit. All right, you spend a good amount of time in the Army National Guard, but 9/11 occurred when you were in basic training. You were there with your brother Joe. Talk to me about that, because we talk about 9/11 in a lot of different contexts. I mean, I was a junior in college, and I was going to be a war correspondent. And, that was my goal, right? Was to be Tom Brokaw. Then 9/11 happens, I'll be a war correspondent, and then a couple of years later, it's like no, I could probably go maybe be this thing with these guys and beards and long hair, and I'll try to save the world that way. But you're in basic training in this time. I mean, what happened?
Well, you want to know my mindset? I was one of those guys that literally joined the National Guard for college. Honestly, it's call it what you want. And
right.
I was 18 years old.
The weekend warrior.
Yeah, I was good, man. And growing up, I'm going to punk shows all the time, playing guitar, and bring the man down. And my twin brother was like, what do we think about joining the military? I'm like, work for the government, man? No way, man. I'm not doing that. But literally, the incentive was free college. It's just a bad attitude. So basically, my mindset was, what can this do for me? Okay? Like maybe you could call it a selfish reason.
Yeah.
And then 11 days into basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And I looked at my brother, because him and I went to basic training together. And I'm like, what the fuck did you get me into, dude? Man? And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't join the military to go to war. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the
you did now, soldier.
But such a selfish reason. But looking back on it, and but like I said, it was all about me. But obviously, I had to grow up really damn quick. So we graduated basic training. I'm looking into colleges. 3 weeks after coming home from Fort Benning, we're not brand new infantrymen, and we got orders for Bosnia.
Yeah.
And anybody out there, if you're unfamiliar with the Bosnian conflict, 92 to 95, there's a genocide happening in Eastern Europe.
Yeah. And
read the book Love Thy Neighbor by Peter Maas. You get an idea of what was going on over there. Or there's a movie, what's it called? In the Land of Blood and Honey. It's very graphic. The book is very graphic too. So it's
it's a graphic. This whole situation there.
I don't know why it's not more talked about, to be honest with you. But 95, and after 3 years of this going on, NATO forces finally stepped in and said, "Look, this has to stop right now." And that's when NATO forces stepped in. And the time I got there in 2002 was a peacekeeping mission.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any threat to any coalition forces. It was more of just making sure the fighting and the genocide doesn't start back up.
Right.
We're knocking on doors, making sure people hey, if you have any weapons, turn them over to us. If you want, you're not going to get in trouble. Stuff like that. It was very, very easy mission. A lot of hearts and minds going on. So like I said, nothing really going on. We left Bosnia in March of 2003. The day we left Bosnia is the day we invaded Iraq. So like the big joke was like, yeah, you know, we're not gonna go west to America. We're gonna go east to Iraq.
Right, yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. I was trying to go to college. Now I'm in Bosnia. And I'm going to Iraq.
Honest to God. But I finally started to go to college when I came home from that Bosnian deployment. Enrolled in a Lackawanna College in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And
that's where you're from.
Yep. Yeah, Scranton.
Yeah, land of the office.
Damn right, man. I work on a beef farm, all right? Dwight Schrute's my boss.
yeah. We all work at Dunder Mifflin.
So after, we came home from Bosnia. I got 2 semesters in. We got a warning order, volunteer mission for Iraq. Now, being this volunteer, I was like, I'm not going to go. If I don't have to go, I'm not going to go. However, my twin brother, Joe, he wanted to go. So I thought to myself, God forbid, here I am partying at college, and Joe's going over to war. What if something happens?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would feel about it, right? So I put my big boy pants on, and off I went to Iraq. And I'm going to tell you, Fran, it was the best decision I ever made.
Really? Why?
Well, I became an NCO, and the situations where I took on those more responsibilities. Yep. And I feel I was a pretty laid-back NCO. Like, just call me Earl, man. Like, just like, look, we all know.
I can't, Sergeant.
It's like, we all know who's in charge, right? Just relax. Just don't lie to me and do your job. That's like, I was pretty laid back, pretty chill, and the respect I got from my guys in the situations we're in over there, I saw the big picture. You know, when I joined the military, I made it about me. Going to Iraq, I realized this isn't about me. It's about us. Whether in that time too, all the politics and society, should we be there, should we not be over there, that shit didn't even matter.
Yeah.
What mattered was right then and right now and the people around me.
Yeah, taking care of everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I saw the big picture wearing the uniform. And it was the camaraderie, the friendship, and those relationships I'm building with the soldiers.
Yeah. And that, I'm glad you bring that up, because people, and you've dealt with it, I know all the time, people will say, do you agree with what we're doing in this country? When you were at war, did you, what if you didn't want to be there? And that's when you have to tell them, that's not my role there.
Right.
My role there is, that decision's been made, and that decision's been made echelons above me. And quite frankly, nobody cares what I think. Right. But what matters is I'm here now, right? Whether I like it or not. And I have to take care of these people who I'm with, who I'm leading.
Yep. You're absolutely right. It's not about me, and my opinion does not friggin' matter when it comes to that shit. What matters to me are those people who are relying on me to help them, to lead them. Yeah. And that's what's important.
That gets lost too, I think, even in business. Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and we have a lot of leaders in various businesses on, and we talk a bit about this. And it's like, when a decision is made, right, in any organization, that's what defines great organizations, right? Is that you have input, right? We want to build organizations that have a structure where we take opinion, we seek bottom-up feedback, because the best ideas, often are not generated by the people at the top. And if you run an organization where you think they are, then you probably don't run an organization that's as good as you might think it is, right? And then we have to take that. But once that decision is made, it's executed, and everybody has to execute. So let's talk about Afghanistan.
Well, like I said, Iraq changed my mindset of wearing that uniform. Joe and I both re-upped our contracts over there. And we came home June of 06. And when I came home, I ended up getting my associate's degree in just liberal arts. And actually, I wanted to be a firefighter. I thought I'd get some education and then go be a firefighter.
Firefighter's a great job. Yeah. If you're a firefighter in like New York or Boston, you work like, I have a couple of buddies who are. They work like 2-3 days a week. They make a ton of money, and then they have another business on the side.
Yeah. And
you're running into burning buildings and you're saving lives, but no, it's a community, right? There's a community about that.
Yep, exactly. And it's very structured like the armed forces. When you're looking at chain of command, uniform, all that stuff. You're putting people over yourself, and that's what I learned in Iraq. So I thought this would be a good push forward. But when I graduated, I got a warning order for Afghanistan, another volunteer mission, and Joe and I were assigned to the 109th Infantry, and this deployment to Afghanistan was volunteering with another unit called the 103rd Armor of the 28th Infantry Division, Pennsylvania Guard. And I raised my hand right away. You know, I thought, you know, I'll do the firefighting stuff later, or maybe go active duty later. Because I'm seeing this pattern, too, where I'm just volunteering for everything, you know? So I'm like, why don't I just go airborne or something like that, you know? And
nothing ever happens in life if you sit home and wait for it to happen.
Yeah.
Right? You got to take the step.
Oh, absolutely. So we ended up, I ended up volunteering for Afghanistan, and Joe asked me not to go. I'll never forget it. I had an apartment in Scranton, and he was living with what would be his future wife. And he came to my house in Scranton, Pennsylvania, my apartment in Scranton, and he's just like, maybe you shouldn't go on this. Look, we're getting called, the 109th is getting called attached to a whole different brigade in a year to go back to Iraq. So how about we do that instead of you going to Afghanistan now? Let's wait a year and go then. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm sorry. Cut this cord. I was just excited. I haven't been to Afghanistan yet, someplace new. Right. Let's give this a shot. So on this deployment in Afghanistan, we're a part of the Provincial Reconstruction Team, or PRT for short, and our job over there, my platoon was a security force for the core PRT. And the PRT's job, they were working, it's like Hearts and Minds.
Yep.
They were
we had them in Iraq.
Yeah. Oh, was there PRT?
Yeah, eventually.
I didn't know that, really. Okay. When I was there, I don't think there was any, but time I was in Afghanistan in 2008, we were in PRT Gardes, and the core PRT is like civil affairs, civilian engineers, U.S. civilian engineers, and they would work with Afghan local government, village elders, rebuilding infrastructure, maybe rec centers for kids, schools, building wells in villages so they don't have to travel far to get clean drinking water. Our job, though, the security force for PRT Gardes, we would just escort the PRT from point A to all the combat arms jobs in the military. They were the security force, the Sec 4. We would escort them, pull security while they have their meetings, pack up, take them back. Pretty easy job, pretty cut and dry. And every person we escort, Fran, they all sit in the back seat. I just got promoted to staff sergeant. I was about to be a squad leader. I was already training to be a squad leader, so it was just come natural to me at this point to just, I was doing it already basically. But every person we escort, like I mentioned, sat in the back seat except for one individual. This gentleman, his name is Major Scott Haggerty, Stillwater, Oklahoma. He's in the Army Reserves as a civil affairs officer. He liked to be in charge of the vehicle he was in. It's just what he did. Yeah. I saw on this 4-day mission that Major Haggerty was going to be in my vehicle. So I knew right off the bat he was going to take my seat. Hey, Major Haggerty, that's cool, man. Tell you what, I'm going to be your gunner. Yeah. And I put my gunner, Craig Rains, as a passenger in a different vehicle. Well, Craig, he was moved, and it was a 4-day mission. And in the back seat of our vehicles, we had an Afghan sub-governor that was located in the vicinity of Zormont. And we were looking at like future site for a school. It was a 4-day mission. And on that final day, we were leaving the site of the school. And as we're leaving, we decided to take a different route back to FOB Zormont to fuel up before we go back to FOB Gardes, which is our home. And this route we decided to take, it's a route we were unfamiliar with, but the dangerous situations we were put in getting to where the school was, it just seemed like the right thing to do with all the choking points and all that nonsense. But now we're in open fields, stuff a lot safer. So like I said, it's a little unfamiliar to any of us, and it was the first time ever I saw in Afghanistan like bright green grass, like really nice areas over there. Have you ever, you've been over there? It's it's like gritty, but this area just seemed to stick out to any place we've been over there. And I just remember going over the headset. Holy shit, who's watering their grass in Afghanistan? This is beautiful. The next thing I remember, I saw nothing but black. And when you put your head underwater and it's like what you're hearing when you're underwater, or you clog your ears? Yeah. It's like a faint noise you hear. That's the best way to describe what I was hearing at the time. And I felt the momentum. And I remember just saying in my mind, it was a very slow momentum, and I'm saying to myself in my mind, what the hell is going on right now? Yeah. The next thing I know, I open my eyes. Big, beautiful sky. It's like 2:30 in the afternoon. Holy shit, why am I looking at this? Holy shit. My feet are backwards, and I'm full of blood. Get my bearing. Humvee to the left of me is completely destroyed. We just hit a roadside bomb. Yeah. And I'm just trying to process what exactly happened. Trying to stand up. I'm obviously not standing up. Are we getting ambushed? Are we under fire right now? I heard my buddy Joe Voda yell, "Get him in a body bag." Shit, okay, people are killed. Is it us? Is it them? What is exactly going on? I didn't even have a working weapon on me in case we were under attack. So my lieutenant got to me, Lieutenant Naylor. He was the first person to get to me, and he looks down at me with a look of awe, and he says, "Hang on, I'll be right back. I got to check the other guys." And, you know, I always regret saying this to him because to me, this was it.
Right.
You know, and I said, "Hey, don't let me die alone," you know, and he left. But immediately after, my medic got to me, Air Force Tech Sergeant Eric Jones, we call him Doc Jones. Doc Jones started working on me immediately. And I was like, "Doc, how's everybody doing?" "They're doing fine. They're doing good. We're going to get you out of here." So he put a tourniquet on me, put a pressure dressing on me. Him and some of my guys put me on a litter. They carried me behind
both legs. One leg.
It was all the blood was rushing. To be honest, like, it was, my right looked 10 times worse, but we're going to get into that later.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, it was all the big issues were coming from my right leg. So they assessed the wounds there. They stopped the bleeding. They put me on a litter. They carried me behind an MRAP. And when they carried me by that MRAP, they walked me right past some body bags. And I knew with the body armor around it who was in those body bags. It was Major Scott Haggerty.
Who was sitting in front of you.
Yep. Who was sitting in the seat that I usually sit in every day. You know, who basically is why I'm still here today.
Yeah.
And Specialist Derek Holland of Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, he was driving the vehicle. And Derek was only 20 years old. He was
your vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, my vehicle. And Scott was from Stillwater, Oklahoma.
I appreciate that you say their names.
Oh,
we have
goodness.
to.
Absolutely.
You know,
look,
people shy from it, but we have to. We have to honor
my
that.
goodness, I'm here because I was escorting Major Haggerty.
Yeah.
If I was escorting any other civil affairs officer, anybody else, I would sit in the seat I sit in every fucking day.
Yeah.
But it was Major Haggerty who I was escorting that day, who always takes that, you know, for anybody else, take that TC seat or shotgun seat. Like, honest to God, it's why I'm still here. So what do I have to complain about, right? So anyway, next thing that happened, medevac chopper, pop red smoke, starting to land. They also put Quick Clot on my leg while we're waiting for it, and that burning
How'd
sensation.
that feel?
That hurt.
Yeah, because we teach some medical classes, and like when you talk about putting that tourniquet, and actually I'm going to ask you this question because I've never had this opportunity, but people will say that the tourniquet often hurts more than the injury itself.
I felt a lot of pressure with the tourniquet. However, the Quick Clot I thought was worse.
Really?
I just started, no warning. Doc just started applying it, and I started smelling that flesh. I'm like, dude, is that Quick Clot you're putting on? And moments later, tingly feeling. And what came even worse was later when I got to Bagram Air Base when they started taking it off.
Take it off. Oh,
that was.
my God.
Yeah, but don't get, the tourniquet was a little painful as well, you know. But medevac chopper came. They started carrying me onto the chopper, and before it took off, we had that Afghan sub-governor in the back of our vehicle too, and I forgot all about him at this point. He survived. I was 24 years old when this happened. He was, my guess, he was much older, probably in his late 40s, early 50s, and I think age has a lot to do with your injuries.
Yeah.
And one other person got on the medevac chopper, an Afghan police officer who was not wounded, but he was going to get on the vehicle, on the Black Hawk, just to continue to escort the governor. And as that Black Hawk took off, to the right, I'm laying on my litter, and to the right of me is the Afghan governor, and he's groaning, he's in pain. I don't give a shit what your faith is or anything like that. I just took my right hand and squeezed his left, and thought to myself, man, I hope we both. Yeah. At this point, I knew I was going to survive. Right. You know what I mean? Like I was out that process that I was going to be killed, but his situation, I really didn't know. He looked pretty beat up. So as that medevac chopper's taking to Bagram Air Base, I keep wanting to look up at my legs. And every time I look up, I would get one of these, right?
From the medic.
From
the medics.
Well, from somebody
pushing your head back down,
back.
So you can't look up.
Yeah, and eventually the second time I looked up again, and I once again get one of these, and I finally looked up, and who was pushing my head back was that Afghan police officer actually, and we lock eyes, and he just shakes his head, and he does this, gives me a little pet on my head, which hey, that's pretty nice. Get a little compassion, you know. So we got to Bagram. The ambulance met us at the helipad, brought us the whole less than 1/8 of a mile to the front of the hospital. They brought us in, started assessing our wounds, took x-rays, where the doctor then said, we're going to have to do surgery on your right hip immediately. And right before I got surgery, Fran, I had a visitor. That Afghan police officer. He walks into my room, big smile on his face, stands straight up, puts his hand over his heart, and then he starts talking. Then he doesn't even speak English. But we all know, like, body language. You know what I mean? And the fact that this dude came in here, there was complete language barrier just to see how I was doing. Dude, that'll stick with me for the rest of my life, man.
Yeah, it's humanity.
Absolutely. And you got to remember, too, we're always saying, like, I don't know if I never experienced this. My unit never experienced this, but, like, blue on green, stuff like that. Like, don't trust them. They're scumbags. This and that. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, man, I don't want to, like, this might sound bad, but I always think to myself, when that situation happened, this culture, this is what they were born into. You know, I've never experienced anything like that. Like, I never saw the heart and just the bad stuff from, like, just innocent civilians doing something bad to us, you know. But in that moment, it just opened my eyes a little bit about the people over there. And we've worked with those Afghans a lot, the locals in Gardez and stuff. But so building those relationships, but that relationship right there, man, I just want to know if that guy's still alive. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like, but that will always stick with me, and just about how those people are over there. And it just, I don't know, man, it just always will be in my mind. So I went under for surgery, and the next thing I remember is I woke up. I'm being woken up to a nurse pulling a breathing tube out of my throat. And as she calmed me down, she said, "Hey, just a heads up, welcome to Launchtool Air Base in Ramstein, Germany." So I was not, I'm in a whole different...
you were out.
Yeah, I mean,
how long were you out?
Probably like a day or two. I mean, the incident happened on June 3rd, and less than a week later, I was in United States. But that time at Launchtool Air Base, I don't know, maybe it was a day or two, I'm not sure. But my time at Launchtool Air Base, doctor came in, said, "We're going to have to amputate your left leg," where I thought it was going to be my right leg, because like I said, they worked on all the wounds here. And internally in my left leg, what you can't work on the battlefield, I guess my muscles were so ruptured from... He said so much potassium was coming out of my muscle, and they had to pull it out because it was poisoning me. And as I got older, when I'm introduced to CrossFit, and I learned what rhabdo was, and it made me think of what the doctor told me. I was like, well, did I have rhabdo then? But anyway, whatever it was, he had to pull the muscle out, and he said, your leg is just going to be dangling. So you could keep it or you could amputate it. And I said, just get rid of it. Yeah. And best decision.
Yeah, I would do that.
Absolutely. I'd be on crutches for the rest of my life, you know. So amputated the left. My right leg is considered limb salvage, and more surgeries on that. And June 8th, 5 days after hitting the IED, I'm finally getting the green light to go back to the States. Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. This is going to be my home for a while.
How long were you there?
I was in Walter Reed for about 18 months.
Wow.
A lot of rehab on my right leg.
Wow.
Literally, this was done. They amputated it. I just got a prosthetic. That's it. So everything was just focused on this one. Are we going to save it? Are we going to keep it? And obviously we did save it, but it was many operations. You know, my foot was a big issue there, but we finally did what's called a subtalar fusion. And so my inversion eversion of my foot, I can't do that anymore. But my first two options were amputating it or fusion of the ankle, and both those just sound horrible. Like fusing the ankle, I can't run. So I was like, well, what else we got? And I worked with Dr. Shawin, a specialized foot doctor, and he did, let's try the subtalar fusion, and it was successful, and here I am now.
So 18 months in Walter Reed. Talk to me about the mentality of that.
I gotta tell you, I want to say my third day at Walter Reed, my family gets a green light to come down, right? And one by one they visit. I'm still in.
Have you spoken to them since, at least on the phone?
Oh yeah. They called me when I was in Germany. I would call them, and I knew they were coming down. You know, hey, we're on our way down. You know, and I'm like smiling, being a goof. I mean, I look a wreck. Like a week prior, I was hit by a roadside bomb. You know what I mean?
What's up, guys?
But I'm like cracking jokes. I'm smiling. You know, man. My brother though, when he saw me, he just. You know, I thought it was just good to see everybody, and he says to me, "I should have just gone with you." I'm like,
wow.
What do you mean? Now I gotta remind you something, Fran. My brother, he's my twin, but like he was kind of like the older brother out of the two of us. Like he was always the one in front. He was just a leader out of our friends. So I think seeing what he saw as his little brother get hurt. I know we were twins, but our mentalities,
right.
And I think he just saw that as his little brother getting hurt, and and it's just who he was, And I'm like, fuck, dude. Look, man. At least I didn't get my balls blown off, right?
Yeah.
Like
I had a guy who got shot through the lower back, and the exit wound was in his nuts, and he lost parts of both of them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Man, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it is.
But it's like I'm trying to convince him, like, dude, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to be all right. And you talk about the mentality at Walter Reed. This is now 2008. The surge in the Iraq War is a year prior, okay? So, like, you can imagine Walter Reed is just full. Like, I was just there last week getting prosthetic work done. It's a ghost town, and that's a good thing.
Compared to what it was back then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But, I mean, if you think about it, the big picture, all right, oh my God, like lives are completely off. Their careers are coming to an end. Spouses are leaving the patient because they can't handle it. It's reality of it. I mean, I only say it because I've watched it happen a lot. People are ODing on their medication, not on purpose, but it's just like they say don't drink, but they give you 18 different pills, and you're in Washington D.C. and you're in your mid-20s. Yeah, you're gonna get drink, Like it's. I hate to say that, but it's like
it's reality. It's
and it happened a few times when I was there. But what thing though? All that sad stuff I'm discussing, I feel like it was a complete opposite, because the one thing that never left anybody is that warrior spirit, and that military mentality was still there. The Army and the Marines are duking it out. What's a better branch still? Nobody likes the Air Force still. Like, and it was so cool.
It's the same conversation.
Yeah, honest to God, it's just like that, except people are blind, or maybe they're burn casualties or missing limbs, but like nothing changed. And I thought that was so cool. You know what I mean? Like that was so awesome. So like as we're moving forward, like my time at Walter Reed, I learned how to snowboard again with a special prosthetic leg. I went to Vail, Colorado.
Wow.
I learned how to play sled hockey, a disabled version of ice hockey. Life was good. I was figuring things out. And I ended up medically retiring like 18 months after losing my leg. And I was dating a girl back in Pennsylvania, and I was working a little bit in Washington, D.C. And I'm getting ready for a black tie event in Pennsylvania a week before Christmas in 2010. I'm at our apartment in DuPont, Pennsylvania. I get out of the shower. I put my suit pants on and a t-shirt before I get fully dressed. I'm doing my hair in front of the mirror. Doing my hair, phone rings. Finish doing my hair, wash the hair gel off my hands, look at my phone, see it's my mom. Listen to the voicemail. She's distraught. What's that about? So I give her a call. And I pick up the phone, and she sounds so ever somber on the other end. Earl, I'm so sorry. Mom, what are you sorry about? What's the matter? Joe committed suicide.
Your brother?
Yes, Joe, my brother. Fran, I gotta tell you, man. Worst day of my life, dude. How can I get this second chance at life and have my own twin brother take his away? And I just fell apart. And my mindset went right back to making it, just like when I joined the military, but in a more negative way, making it all about me. Feeling sorry for myself. Playing the victim. Thinking the world owes me everything. Let me ask you, dude, where does playing a victim get you in life?
Yeah, nowhere.
Exactly.
Why did your brother take his life?
I don't have an answer for that. I know from his wife, Stephanie. I know he struggled a lot with my injury, even though I was doing well with it. And I think there's some other personal things that I don't know that was going on in his life. I think everybody, I think a huge misconception is every suicide when somebody serves in the military is post-traumatic stress related. I think that's a huge misconception, and that's something I talk about in my program a little bit. I won't talk about it tomorrow when I'm on stage, but but I think that is a huge misconception. Because I think we've gotten better society to not think that way. But I know when I got hurt, everybody's like, "You must have PTSD." I'm like, "Why do you think that? What are you a doctor?" But anyway, I don't want to get my head wrapped around that right now. But I couldn't get why I got this second chance at life and Joe took his away. Like it just crushed me. You know, the next day I had to go to Joe's house. There's his wife, there's his kids, and the house is full of people, like some of our friends from high school, some of our guys we served with. Joe, for a little while, was a corrections officer. At the time he passed away, he was a active duty guard in our in the 109th Infantry, so a full-time job in the National Guard. And you can imagine the energy in this house, and I'm just like, fuck, man, I can't like be sad anymore. All right, so okay, what happens now? All right, it's now Sunday the 19th. Tomorrow's Monday. Somebody's gonna be at the Armory. Perfect. All right, my cousin Paul, and my best friend growing up, Dave Rivera, they were both there. They were both in the Guard with us. Hey, what are you guys doing tomorrow? Want to go to the Armory? Boom. So the three of us went to the Armory. There's my old readiness NCO, Sergeant Peterson. He gave me a big hug and condolences. I got a box. There's Joe's desk. I emptied out his desk. All right, Sergeant Peterson. So Joe's active duty, paperwork to fill out. Boom, let's fill this out right now. Yeah. I need you to go to supply. It's going to be an open casket. I need to make sure all of Joe's awards are up to date on his uniform. My brother was Catholic, so I need you to go to St. Rosalima Church in Carbondale and work with all the logistics with the priest and the church and his funeral. How about you and I go with Steffi, and we're going to go pick out a casket for Joe. And, dude, all I started doing was delegating all these tasks. And, like, let's get this work done. Let's get the job done. I'll let the family grieve. Boom, we get all this done.
It was just taking action.
Yeah, it's all I had to do. I started delegating all this stuff. Day I came at Joe's funeral, I jumped in my dress blues, give him that final salute. That's that. Now what?
How have you dealt since?
How have I dealt
without him?
I got to tell you, that first year, it was just victim, victim, victim. Look at me. Did you ever see Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
You know Uncle Rico? I just got Uncle Rico syndrome, and I just lived in the past. You know what I did for my country? I was that guy with a dysfunctional veteran shirt, thinking the world owed me everything because of my military service. I just started to fall apart. There's no growth. There's no moving forward. I just fell apart. There was nothing at all like that I had. You know, I stopped going to school, everything. I collect my disability check and just fell apart. I was at the bar, you know, doing some drugs. Like it was bad. Like, you know, I was just lost and just couldn't wrap my head around anything. And you know, I was that guy wearing the dog tags out to make sure everybody knew I served. Right. Why I'm wearing a prosthetic leg, and it's bullshit. Like there was nothing moving forward. But the biggest turnaround I had in my life was with Joe. I learned from Joe's wife that Joe was proud of things I was doing when I lost my leg. Like when I went out to Vail, Colorado, I ended up making the front page of the Vail Daily, right? Like snowboarding. You can see my prosthetic on a snowboard. And
how did it go? Because I ski, but I am a horrible snowboarder, and I have two legs.
I gotta tell you,
so how did it go with one?
I guess I was average when I had two legs, but now I'm like bad. More practice, I'm sure I'm gonna get better. Right. But
if you were like, no, I got on there and was like in the terrain park, I'm getting up and leaving because I have no business being in the same room with you.
If I gave it more patience, I'm sure I'd be rock star status. But I'm like, you know. But you know, and every season I say like
some humility there. No, man, that's terrible.
You know, so being that I was on the front page of the Vail Daily, you know those machines where you put the quarter in and you open and you take the paper out? I took every damn paper out of that machine, and I brought them home. Hey, man, look at this! And I started giving them to people. Check it out, man. Oh, I got a bunch of them because I stole them out of a machine.
I paid 25 cents. I got 50 of them.
So what Joe did when he was a CO, he brought it to the prison and he started showing all his buddies. And I was like, not just from his wife, Steph, but one of his buddies, Ed, who worked at the prison. And man, I never knew that shit. Like Joe was that proud of things I was accomplishing. And that was like, it turned my life around a little bit. And like, man, I never knew Joe felt that way. You know, we didn't have that relationship where we compliment each other. And I was like, it made me look at my life a little bit. I'm like, man, I'm going downhill. I look like shit. You know, I feel like shit. I'm doing absolutely nothing. And it made me start living this physical lifestyle, and I got involved in CrossFit. I got a running blade and started like running 5Ks and just started getting myself back in shape. And that led to doing obstacle course races and Go Ruck events
and marathons
because
you've done New York Marathon and the Boston Marathon.
Yes, and Chicago.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, and Oh, don't. I mean, look, I'll be real, man. The next day I'm in my wheelchair.
What's the time? What's the time? I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the time is because just doing it is. I'm just interested.
It's not a good time. It's like 7 hours, man. Like it's
still. There's people who. I mean, there's people who don't do it in 7 hours who have.
I guess you're right. You know, you met Johnny, right?
So,
my buddy, but Johnny Lopez, who has one arm, my teammate in OEW. He's my guide for a lot of these. And what did I do is those higher miles, I'm just hanging onto his shoulder limping because my foot, it's just all that hardware, it's just screaming at this point, you know. But I always say, man, save it for the end. Save it, like get that last mile. We got to run. You got to run across the finish line. You don't walk across it, you know. Like the crowd cheering you on. They're like, you got to add a little flavor to it, right? But what led me to, you know, my first ever Spartan race was in 2013. It was in Wintergreen, Virginia.
So 2013, so five years. 5 years after losing my leg. 5 years after losing your leg.
And then it was like 2.5 years after losing my brother. And I'm getting ready for this course in the morning, and there's these men and women in uniform with little assault packs on, and then one of them comes up to me with a hand out, and he says, "Are you Earl?" And I look at this gentleman. His name is Noah Galloway. And a little bit about Noah's story. He lost his arm and his left arm, left leg in Iraq in 2005 from a roadside bomb, serving with 101st Airborne. And what Noah went on to accomplish in his life, he was on the cover of Men's Health magazine, and he also was he was on Dancing with the Stars after losing 2 limbs in combat.
Wow.
So like I know who this guy is, and like I fangirled a little bit, big time. Like, oh my god, holy shit!
I stalked you on Instagram,
and you know, he knew that, and like, because I remember hitting him up on his social, dude, you're fucking awesome, man. You know, like, and here he is in front of me. I was like, oh my god, Noah, like, you know, and he was one of the guys in uniform. I said, well, what's with the uniform? He's like, we're with an organization called Operation Enduring Warrior, and OEW's mission is to honor, empower, and motivate wounded and disabled veterans, live an active lifestyle, not let their injuries define who they are. These people are going to define themselves. So Noah introduced me to the rest of the team, and I have to add, each person in uniform is current or former military. Right? And before we went to the starting line, we went to the little secluded area, and in their little backpacks, they said a few words, and they pulled out a gas mask. And I was like, man, you guys are hardcore. You know? So they're doing this. It's August in Virginia, and it's just full of damn.
So it's cold.
No, it's hot. Come on, it's hot as balls. It's
with like, a gas mask.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, awesome. So I ran the course alongside these men and women, and I got done, and man, I'm just looking at these guys because they're awesome. And Noah asked me, he's like, "What do you think about joining us?" And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that, man, but I got to tell you, if this guy who I look up to is asking me to join this organization, it's like I followed the Chicago Bulls my whole life, and Michael Jordan just walked up on a pickup game, asked me to be on his team. You don't turn that shit down.
No.
So now to be a team member, it's you don't just join the team. You have to go through an indoctrin, and this indoc, it's I don't want to. We don't talk about it. Like I like that it's like a little secret we do. Just know it's like a weekend of just military evolution. You know,
you're gonna earn it. That's what you're
absolutely,
saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I see now that it, you know, what I've noticed, they look for how you are, your personal capabilities, how you work as a team member with the rest of the team, and also your attitude. And those are the 3 keys I took from everything. You know, and there was 10 people in my class, half of them failed, and
really,
yeah, and I was, and I take pride in this because I was the only one on my team that had some type of disability. Like I was a lone amputee on my team, and actually pushed. And of course, I wasn't like beating them in the individual evolutions, but I stuck my own and I didn't quit. And when it came down to the end of who moved forward, I was picked. I was one of the guys picked. And that, earning that gas mask, Fran, it brought me back to that Iraq deployment. I actually earned a spot on a team. I'm part of something bigger than myself, and I'm taking a responsibility to help men and women in situations like me. Like OEW helped me through that Spartan race.
Right.
However, now I'm going to help other people. It's like becoming an NCO in Iraq, like I said earlier. So once again, this isn't about me. It's about us being a part of something bigger than myself. And it really just turned my life around once again. And it was that big push. And now I have other organizations reaching out to me asking for help, like the Oscar Mike Foundation.
Yeah.
They reached out to me. It's like, we'd love you to help build our organization. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I saw their mission. I was all about it.
What's their mission?
Oscar Mike's mission, it's just that simple. Oscar Mike stands for On the Move, keeping our wounded, disabled veterans on the move. Similar to OEW, run very differently, though. And but I thought to myself, we're doing this already. And I feel like working for both these organizations, one organization is very military structured, very, that kind of lane in how it's run. And it's all those things I miss about the military. Oscar Mike is more laid back. And I feel like when it comes to, if somebody's coming to me and approaching, like, what do you want your goals to be? Meeting their personality, I think you'd be a better fit over here, or I think you'd be a better fit over here. Both organizations are going to help you either way, but it's like, where can I put you in your own personality and where you're at? You know what I mean?
Well, you got to. I mean, I think there's so many organizations out there, and I think that's a plus,
right?
And there's a lot of competition. We call it competition because they're competing in a sense for donors and people to support. But I think it's important in these communities to have this many organizations, because we are all different, and who we identify with, organizations that that speak to us in a different manner and that have a slightly different vision, I think are so important. I mean, my marketing coordinator, Jenny Duclay, I met her because I work with her family with an organization called Sail Ahead, and Sail Ahead teaches veterans how to sail. And I was like, well, I grew up sailing and racing, and I'm in New York, and going through my post-army, trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I grow up in my life. And I'm like, I needed an outlet to find that community, find that group of people who I could identify with, and came across them and was like, wow, I can go here. And then I was like, well, let's build a race team too, right? That'd be cool. And we sucked. Right? We haven't done much because of COVID the last few years, but we're going to build it back and work on that. But I think it's important to have those many groups out there.
Absolutely. There's something for everybody. And think about all the charities out there, Fran. Just sit down for 5 minutes and write down every military charity you know of. I guarantee it, 90% of what you write down happened after 9/11.
Yeah.
And it's like,
sure.
I think our community is, I feel we're blessed big time compared to, our military culture in the past. It's gotten much better.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, you and I had a conversation last night about purpose, and how you have to define your purpose, and it's your purpose that gets you up in the morning, and you have had no shortage of adversity that you faced in your life, and it has always been the purpose that has regrounded you and brought you to that next step. Talk to me about Cindy.
So, Cindy is a cinder block with chains. And
you can look on the YouTube. Look on the YouTube version if you're listening to it. They can see it there.
Yes, so. Yeah. Cindy the cinder block is her name, and what Cindy represents, and we use her a lot in the Oscar Mike Foundation, and we even sell T-shirts with her on it. And what Cindy represents is a heavy mental adversity.
You have
yeah.
Cindy.
I got Cindy right here.
All right, let's pick it up.
Hear the ding ding.
We don't want to leave her out of this conversation.
Oh my goodness, she's my friend. We got it. Give it a little grit, It's World War II era. Come on.
Yeah. Gently used.
So what this is, ladies and gentlemen, for the camera's sake, I'm going to hold it right here. This is Cindy. And this is the schmog I was wearing when I got blown up, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, so my buddy, Craig Rains, my buddy who took he's usually a gunner to that vehicle, and I took his spot.
Yeah.
He picked up my schmog, and he had his as well. We all wore the checkered black and white schmog. And he didn't know which is which when he left the deployment, so he gave me both of them. So I have this one here, and the other one's hanging in my office. And but what Cindy represents is a heavy mental diversity that each one of us, every human, not just military, everybody, We all face guilt, stress, depression, anxiety, all that weight of adversity in our minds that holds us down in our life. And the idea of Cindy, when we take her out on the course, as a team, I'm not the only one carrying her. She's a team weight. I'll pass her off to somebody else. Maybe I'll just have them hold the chain, because the chain's pretty damn heavy.
Yeah, the whole thing is heavy. I was holding it earlier. You passed it off to me, but yeah, it's heavy.
The idea is nobody's carrying her by herself, because that's the same in our minds. Every human being, we all face adversity inside ourselves, and it holds us down. The weight of adversity holds us down and stops us from enjoying life. But like Cindy is a reminder that we don't have to carry the weight by ourselves. We all carry this together. And as a community, those relationships you build. You know how many friends I made in the Go Ruck community or in the Spartan community?
You made a lot of friends, because I spent time with you last night, and I've been with you today, and it is a non-stop. It's like a celebrity. I'm like walking around with a celebrity, because you have made a lot of friends in this community.
It's just, but I feel like not just me, but that's just a community in general. We look after each other, and that's a reminder that we don't have to carry this weight by ourselves. Sometimes that vulnerability is so important.
Yeah.
You know, and something you mentioned purpose a little bit, and something I like to discuss about, like every human being in our lives, we need 3 Ps. You must have a purpose, you have to have a passion, and you must be part of something bigger than yourselves. And I want to think about that when you're in the military. I look at my 3 Ps when I was a soldier. You know, my purpose, I was a soldier, pretty basic. My passion, that passion of being an infantryman, wearing that blue cord, the cockiness that comes with that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're part of something bigger than yourselves. I learned that in that Iraq deployment, right? My 3 Ps now, my purpose. I'm a public speaker, discussing my ideas of battling adversity and the importance of being a part of something bigger than yourself. You know, my passion, physical fitness and travel. Those are so important to me. And being a part of something, Operation Enduring Warrior, the Oscar Mike Foundation, the Spartan Race community, the Go Ruck community, those relationships you build, you're part of something.
You're now on our Jedburgh team, by the way.
There you go. So Jedburgh, I'll take that.
You're one of us now.
Absolutely. I'm honored. Thank you. Now I want you to think the recipe to find those 3 Ps. Attitude. If you have that shitty, dysfunctional veteran attitude, or just a bad attitude in general, you're never gonna get anywhere in life. Having a bad attitude is just so bad. You gotta move forward and find what works for you. Comfort zone. You have to take a leap out of it. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that. Education, I feel like, is something I struggle with, sitting in a classroom. But there's so many things I want to accomplish after I get my degree.
Which you're working on.
Yes, I am working on my undergrad of counseling and human services, and to be I would love to be a nutrition coach. I lost a lot of weight, which helped save not amputating my other leg. That's a whole other story. But I found out the importance of what you're putting inside your body, and also physical fitness and the right workouts that work for you to reach your physical goals. So I would like to step out of my comfort zone and take those steps in finding other approaches to better myself, to help those in my community, in OEW and Oscar Mike. You know, those are some goals I have. But I always am stagnant about it because, man, I gotta sit at a computer learning these modules, and it's just so hard to retain stuff. And I'm like, dude, just fucking do it already. You could do this. You're like, I'm beating myself up.
Right.
You know, and I have to remind myself, you have to step out of your comfort zone and just do it, man. You're gonna be fine. And if you need help, that's where Cindy comes into play. Hey, man, can you help? You know, give me some study guides, or would you help me study, whatever it may be. And so, like I said, the recipe to find those 3 Ps: attitude, stepping out of your comfort zone, and I think the third is most important. It's community. It's what we're seeing right here at Sandlock Jack. It's like you said, people coming up to me all the time. Look at the power of what a community can do. You know, so it's where those avenues where I'm struggling, where we all lean on each other, and those relationships you build. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. I mean, you don't go anything alone, you know, and even people who are athletes, who are, you know, we've talked to a number of Olympic athletes who are in individual sports, and they will always say, even though I may have had to compete on my own, I didn't get here by myself, right? And I think that's prevalent in all of us. I mean, an infantry squad, an infantry platoon is 41 people, for a reason. A special forces team is 12 people for a reason, and rarely are we ever isolated by ourselves. And the community, when you come out of these organizations, I think helps you too in that transition. It's so hard because one of the things that we forget about, and I never had even really considered when I was getting out, was the fact that you lose and you leave behind this group of what you know. Right. I mean, for 13 years of my life, they were my friends, they were my coworkers, there was everything. The last thing I had before that was my college friends and roommates who had gone off to build their own lives, and I hadn't been in contact with them because I was running around in the Army and went to Iraq 3 times, in Africa a lot. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, who am I? And how do I find these people, and how do I find people who think like I do and I can identify with, and that's super powerful. And we're seeing that here this weekend. We're looking out the back here at Sandlot Jacks, and it's been this constant stream of people, and it's only Friday, and we're going to see more and more people Saturday and Sunday, and it is cool to see the community come together in this fashion.
Absolutely. This is if there's GoRuck still going on all over the country after COVID, I don't want to say each GoRuck is different, but this is something so unique. It's like I saw some people wearing Montana GoRuck Club shirts out here. So like that, and we're in Jacksonville, right, Florida, ladies and gentlemen. That tells you how far people are traveling for this. So just think about it, it's like a little reunion.
Yeah. Well, Earl, we talk about the 9 characteristics of elite performance on the majority of our conversations, and when I think about our conversation, I think about your story, and you discuss the adversity that you had to go through in various times. You have demonstrated in so many ways all these 9, the drive to do more, the curiosity, the emotional strength to continue, to just be calm and find a way to get through. There's an effective intelligence in your ability to understand what you've been through and apply the adversity of the past to make decisions for the future. It's truly remarkable. We talked about humility a little bit as well. I do want to ask you, as we close out, the Jedburghs in World War II, because now that I've welcomed you to our Jedburgh team. The Jedburghs of World War II had to do 3 things as daily core foundational tasks. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, they had to be able to communicate. If they did these 3 things with the utmost precision, then they would be able to focus their energy on more complex challenges that came their way. You spoke about your 3 Ps, but at a very foundational core habit level, what are the 3 things that you do every day as core foundational tasks to prepare you to execute on your 3 Ps?
The first one I'm going to talk about, it's brand new that I started doing.
I like it.
I for the past 2 months, I have been meditating every morning, and I gotta tell you,
powerful.
I dated a girl who meditated, and every night before bed, and I'd be trying to go to sleep, and she'd be sitting there doing her breath works, this and that, and I would never like openly say anything about it, but I always thought, does that really work? And boy, was I wrong. Yeah. Because now that I'm doing it. Just taking that deep breath in and letting it out. Even just now when I did it, and her and I are still good friends. And said, "Hey, Lindsay, I started meditating, and fuck, was I wrong? You were how much that Zen." And just it started with guided meditation, and now I'm doing, I forget what it's called. It's 20 minutes at a specific stance and how I stand, and it's just complete silence with my eyes closed, just focusing on my body, counting my heartbeat to 4 every time. 4 breaths, 4 heartbeats, breath in, 4 heartbeats, hold it, 4 heartbeats, exhale, 4 heartbeats, hold it. That's a technique that I started doing, and I try to do it for 20 minutes. And I just feel so much better in the morning when I do that. And it's like today's gonna be a fucking kick-ass day, motherfucker. You know, like I'm telling you, it just zens me out, and it's good. And believe it or not, I also started journaling. Like there's still growth I need to do. I'm realizing in myself, and just writing down, here's your goals for today, dude. Here's what you're gonna do, right? You know, whether it's pick up that CrossFit manual, work. I'm working on my level 1. Like, pick that up, start reading it. Like, don't be fucking, like I would much rather put my blade on and go for a run than sit down and read.
There, study.
I mean? Like, dude, even if it's just 15 minutes, get in that book for a little bit, or the dog would really like it. Sparta would really like it if you went for 2 miles today with her. So like, put that in my, write down my daily goals, what I need to do. Okay. And like, there's the things like, okay, I have this meeting today. I have this, the things that I definitely have to do, but then also what am I going to do in my free time? Do this, do that, do this, do that. And then there's a small dog, Charlie. And it's like, remember to settle, because Charlie likes to sit there and watch TV with me, and he gets all pissed off, and he stomps his little feet, and he's like, would you sit down already? I'm like, all right, fine, But yeah, journaling, meditation, and there's the stuff I've been doing it forever. It's just the physical fitness. I feel like, and it actually is in that order. It's meditating, journaling, and then I leave the house and I go to early CrossFit, and that's how I start my day. And when I get those 3 things in, I'm good to go.
Awesome. Well, Earl, we got a couple more days here. I know we're going to spend some more time together. I appreciate you hopping in the back of the ambulance here in a better situation than probably the last time you were certainly in something like this, right? But it is awesome. Your story is so inspirational, and I'm truly honored to have met you and to build a relationship and a partnership with you. And I look forward to many more conversations to come.
Absolutely. Fran, thank you so much. And anything you and your team need, Jedburgh, by all means, do not hesitate. This is a privilege. So thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.